Okay, is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So we just have got a few um, parts here left to discuss. We were talking about prepositions in the last class, right? So we looked at a few of them, which are prepositions which are called grammatical collocations. We discussed what this means in the last class, which is basically, having the kind of prepositions which are used either because of the meaning of the word itself, right? And as discussed, they themselves probably do not have a meaning on their own, right? Like, for example, I say besides or against or off or anything, they don't have any meaning on their own, right? So we call them the closed class compounds or, closed category words, or what is also known as a functional word, right? Because it doesn't have a meaning on their own. They only get the meaning when you use it in the context or when you use it in the language in use, right? And we saw that, some of those prepositions, like the ones here, right? So I'd rather study and pass than repeat the course. Now, one cannot really give you a reason for why should I not use instead or besides. There is just that they have certain expressions have fixed meanings, right? So they can only be used in a certain way in the language, right? Um, it's not as much about grammar as much it is about the use. So people who speak in English in places where English is the main language or predominant language, they use the language a certain way. So you use these prepositions this way. So these kind of prepositions then you acquire when you're learning English, right? So as a learner, you acquire them by reading and listening and watching a lot of content in the language itself. And these kind of things exist in our languages also. There are certain parts of the grammar which you can learn only if you use that language, right? Only if you are exposed to that language. So this is one set of, so one, when you talk about prepositions, one set of prepositions work like this, right? Wherein you learn them through use. Now we have another set of prepositions which we mentioned, but we did not discuss them. These are the most commonly used, the ever found prepositions, the omnipresent prepositions. Three of them: in, on, and at. Right. This is the most commonly used one or the most found one in the English language. Right. What do you use in, on, and at for? I told you last time that we have they're used to perform two different functions, right? So in, on, and at can be used to show place. They can be used as prepositions of place, and they can also be used as prepositions of time, right? So they act as both in context where you need to show relationship between the noun or nominal components, noun or pronoun. Nominal means noun and pronoun. So when you have to show relationship between the nominal compounds in your sentence, in, on, and at can be either used to talk about the relationship in terms of place or in terms of time, right? This is the major function for in, on, and at. So this is different from other prepositions in the sense that you know that, okay, in, on, and it can only be used in context of place and time, right? But now the issue is there are very subtle differences between in, on, and at, even when you use them to show time and place, right? So in these exercises from 11 to 30, we are going to discuss how do they differ in various circumstances, right? So to begin with, if I'm looking at in, on, and at as prepositions of place, right? Can you tell me, when do we use in, when do we use on, and when do we use at? If we are talking about all three of them as prepositions of place. How does it happen? Give me examples of sentences. I think that should be fine. When you use in, on, and at as prepositions of place.
Yeah, when we use in when we talk about anything is inside, and when we use at when we talk about the particular place.
No, you're telling me about okay, in is fine. The answer you gave for in is all right. Not it's not entirely I won't call it like the absolute answer, but then you're almost right? But how about at? If you're using at as a preposition of place, okay, and I mean preposition of
Yeah,
place,
I
not
think
time.
I standing at bus stand. So when I talk about the particular place, yeah, suppose
Particular
pen
place,
is,
okay.
yeah, pen is at the corner, then we can
Okay,
use
so
at.
you tell me one
Pen
thing. If
is,
I have a
yes,
sentence like, I am in the office and I am at the office, are they the same thing or are they different things?
I think different.
Okay, so how are they different? That is the question here. If I say I'm in the office and if I say I'm at the office, what is the difference? Right? So this is how you need to understand. So maybe in first go, when you look at it, you feel like, okay, this is one and the same thing. So although grammatically it can sound correct, right? Because, the positions of prepositions don't change in the sentence, right? So unlike verbs or other categories, which can skew your understanding of the meaning can become like really different if you're using two different verbs. But in the case of prepositions, since they're functional words, we need to use them a little more cautiously. The meaning is not, it's not clear right away. Okay. So both sentences are correct. You can say I am in the office. I can also say I am at the office. The difference is if I'm saying I'm in the office, then remember when you use in as a preposition of place, you're talking about the relationship of the entities in a sentence within a space. Okay, now this phrase is important. Within a space, enclosed in a space, right? So if it is an enclosed space, right, then then the preposition usually that we use is in. So I am in the office means I'm inside the building, I'm inside the office. No, room is a space. Okay, office, basically there's a room and I'm inside that space. That is what I'm in the office means. But when I say I'm at the office, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm inside some room somewhere. I can also be at the premise, somewhere on the, within the premise of the office building also, and I can still say I'm at the office, right? As long as I'm not outside the gate of the office or I'm at some other place which is not counted as office by people, I can still say I'm at the office. But in the office would specifically mean that I'm inside a space, inside some, inside the building. Okay. So inside, in is basically inside, and at is basically surroundings or premise. Okay. This is the basic difference between in and at when used as prepositions of place, right? Now, how about on? How do we use on?
If something is on the surface of something.
Something is on the surface. Okay,
Being
X is
actually
on
And
the
it is,
table.
and it touches the surface.
And it touches the surface. So yeah, basically surface, right? If there's there is the inclusion of a surface in the relationship mentioned, right? Like the pen is on the table or the book is on the table, right? So here the relationship is more on the surface level. This is where you use the on, right? The preposition on. Hmm? So on is a little less complicated. In and it can sometimes, give you different meanings, although grammatically the sentence sounds right, but the meanings given by each of them would be different, right? So this is how it works for in, on, and at as prepositions of place. Now, as prepositions of time, in, on, and at, how does that function? Any idea? Again, in and at is what is going to most of the.
For long duration, we use in for the long durations, like anybody birthday is 2000, and at we will use when we talk about the particular time, like
Hmm.
we are saying 4 a.m. He won at 4 a.m.
Okay, so which means you need to use at when you're talking about a specific time, right? And specific means you need to mention exactly, like he said, 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Okay, or any other specific time. But then, what was the other one? In you can say to indicate what you said.
In the
Yeah,
evening,
we
like
are saying
we
about a long time, like 2000. He
You
was
mean a
in
period of time, right? Something
the
that is
period of
larger in nature, right? Something that is larger in nature. Maybe not exactly period of time also, but something that is a that encompasses a larger unit of time, right? So, for example, I went to Darjeeling in summer, right? You don't say at summer, you say in summer because when you say summer, you're referring to a larger period of time. Okay, not a specific time, a dotted time, right? So that is a difference. One is periodical and the other one is not periodical, sorry. One indicates more of a prolonged period of time or period of time, but the other one is more specific, right? How about on? Is on
when we
specific or is on more general?
I think we use on when we talk about between them. I think anybody won in Monday, so we can say on Monday.
Anybody, sorry? Please repeat yourself.
If anybody won on Monday, yeah, we can say he won on Monday.
Okay, I did not get the part after anybody. Spell it out for me, if anybody.
Yeah, suppose Ram won on Monday. I'm saying like that.
Mhm. Okay, on Monday. So, yeah, that's okay. My question is whether on is specific or is it like more periodical in nature?
Yeah,
That's
it
the
is
question.
between them. It is between them. I think
Between them. But if I say I want to meet you on Monday, so what is the interpretation of that?
it is specific.
It is specific, right? So you use on for more specific period of time. Even at is, of course, more specific, right? It is very specific. When I say I will come at 4 p.m., then I'm being very specific. This is super specific that, okay, this person is going to arrive at 4 p.m. There's no other time period. There's no other option that I'm giving. On is also specific, but maybe not as specific as 4 a.m., right? So I say on Monday, that means there is some specificity, but it could be any time on Monday, right? But when I say 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. on Monday, then that is at is making it even more specific. So on and at are both indicators of specific period of time, and in is more general, right? So general, or you can call them period, right? I wanted to show you something, but I am not sure if you're able to catch it or not. Let me just check if it is available. Anyway, if not, I'll just share it at the end of the class. Okay, so no problem. In general, if you want to talk about in is a preposition, right, which is used to talk about a general period of time, right, and you can say to indicate time like centuries or decades or years, months, weeks, seasons, periods of time, holidays, right, parts of the day. So when you want to refer to different parts of the day, right, you say in the morning, I will see you in the morning, I'll see you in the evening. You don't say on the morning, right, or at the morning specifically. And if it's on, then it can indicate time, days, dates and specific days, or day or other part of the day. Like I'll meet you Sunday morning. Okay. So that's also on. Here you don't say in. Okay. Not in Sunday morning, on Sunday morning. So, and holidays with day. So, for example, I will go and meet my friend uh, on the day of Diwali or on Diwali day, right? Both are correct. Or on holy day, right? Or on Easter day. Okay. So then comes, for at, you are going to use mostly hours, parts of the day, time, holidays without day, right? I'll show you that particular image in a while. You can, I mean, you really don't need to by heart that thing, but then if you understand this, the way you're using in on and at for time and place, then it should be more than enough. Okay. So this should be the basic understanding that you need to have for learning prepositions, especially using prepositions in on and at, right? There could be some other places where we can get a little confused, so that we'll see as we solve the questions. Okay, so we'll start looking at the questions. So if there are doubts, then or there are specific situations where we do not know whether it is in on and at, it will get a little more clarified. So let's do this one then. So you have the first question, is the 11th question here. Be careful, there is ice dash the roads today. I have boldened all of those, nouns there so that you get an idea of when and where we use in on and at. Okay, with what do you use in on and at? So what's the answer for the first one? There is ice dash the roads today.
On the road.
On the road, right? Because surface, ice needs a surface to rest. So obviously this has to be on the roads, right? So there is ice on the roads. Now, Krakow is situated dash the south of Poland.
At.
South
At.
of Poland. Is situated dash the south of Poland. So what is the south of Poland? I'm not asking the geographical location. I'm saying, what would you categorize this as? The south of Poland.
General location.
Location, yes. And in location specifically what?
Specific location.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
I think this is a specific location. That's why we will use
It's
at.
a specific location. Yes, that's a specific
Yes.
location at the south of Poland. So what would you use if it's a specific location?
At.
At the south. Okay, tell me. So is it in the south of Poland or at the south of Poland?
At the south of Poland.
Okay, why?
And because in we use when there is a boundary or something like that.
Boundary. In is used when there is a boundary. Okay, but where is the boundary here in the south of Poland?
Yeah, I think we will use
I
in.
don't-
Huh? In.
We will use
Okay.
in because
Yes.
the Krakow is in the south of Poland. I think this is a small set, this is big set. So
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay.
think.
And the other one, somebody who said boundary. Why did you say that one?
And because like we say Delhi is in India, so India is boundary, like so it is inside India. So I thought that.
Okay. So see, the answer has to be in, right? The Krakow is situated in the south of Poland. And what is the reason here? Because we are pointing out to a specific point or location within a larger area, right? So there is a larger area, but then we are pointing out to a specific place at a larger area, right? South of Poland, we have specificity, but then it's not like we know the exact point, but then we know where to look for. There's a larger area, and within that you're talking about a specific location, right? So specific locations then need to take in this case, or rather you can say when you're talking about directions, right? Whether that is southeast, northwest, or whatever, it needs to be usually in, because again there is a specificity involved there. Okay. Okay. 13. Do come in, don't stand dash the cold. Okay.
in.
Don't stand in the cold.
In the go.
Now, what is this?
the cold.
In the cold here. What interpretation do you get from this one? Again, this is a location, right?
Like weather.
Weather, but this is like a location. Don't stand in the cold. So this person is standing somewhere at some place which
Inside
is
the
cold.
goal.
Correct. So again, locations specifically not in the cold, right? So that's the reason. Then, do you know those people sitting dash the grass? On,
On the grass.
On the
on the grass, right?
On
We're
the
talking
grass.
about surface, so it was on the grass. Then comes, do you mean the one dash the left? What is the answer to this one? Do you mean the one dash the left?
on the left.
On the left, right?
Yes, ma'am,
On
on
the
the-
left. Now here what has happened? What are we talking about? Is this still direction or is it something else?
It is a specific direction like
Direction.
left or right.
Sorry, louder. I don't know if my volume is down or I can't hear. Yeah, tell me.
It is like specific location that is left or right.
It is specific. It is specific, but then if it is specific, then why are we not using in? Why are we saying on? Do you mean the one on the left? Why am I saying do you mean the one in the left?
Because it is talking about the place that is left or right, like just closer to the person.
Hmm. No. So see, when you talk about directions like left or right, you are basically asking people to, are we telling them to take direction or is it anything else? That's what I want to like clarify from you. When you say south, north, east, west, and left and right, huh? Are we talking about directions or is there a difference?
Yeah, like in these, it is with relation to something else.
It is in relation to something else. Okay, yeah, that is I think a better interpretation. So when you say left and right, you are doing this in relation to something else. So left in relation to right, okay, as opposed to right. Okay. Right. So that is one way of looking at it. If you want to differentiate between, both are directions. South, east, northwest is also direction. Left and right is also direction. But why is it that, that takes in and this takes on? Maybe one interpretation could be that this is clearly a place where you're getting an alternative. This is left as opposed to right, right? There's a choice. But the other place, it's more specific, right? Do you think left and right is more specific or, south of Poland is more specific? South of Poland is more specific.
South of Poland.
Right? South of Poland is more specific. So anything that is more specific usually in terms of place will take in. Okay. All right. So do you mean the one on the left? That's right. Then 16th one, do you still work dash the post office? In?
At the post office.
Do you still work at the post office? All right. Can we say, do you still work in the post office? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you still work in the post office?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No.
No,
Means
not in
that it will be
Okay,
not.
not in this case. Okay, because here, what is the question? Here, it's not, if you're going to use in, right? In very specifically, we use for enclosed spaces. But if you look at the context of the question, do you still work? Okay, do you still work? This person is asking a general question about this person's, occupation, right? Do you still work at the post office is more accurate. Do you still work in the post office is not a correct usage, right? So this is please make a note of this thing because I have when you talk to people, right, especially when you are introducing people from about where you work and where you're from and all that, I've heard a lot of people using expressions like this. So I work in NPTL, or I work in IIT Madras. You don't work in IIT Madras, you don't work in NPTL. When you're talking about something as a profession or as an occupation or of your place of work, you don't say I work in, right? You can say that to a colleague, I'm in the office, that's all right, right? Or you call up a friend and tell them about your location, they say I'm in the post office, okay? Or in that case, you can also say I'm at the post office. But
Right.
the response to a question or a question itself, like, do you still work at IIT Madras? It has to be at, not in. Okay. So question is, do you still work at the post office? The answer is again, yes, I still work at the post office. Or if you're self-introducing, again, I work at so-and-so, not I work in so-and-so. Okay. So this is not a this is not a question about space. This is a general question about the location where people can expect to find you, right? So that finding is not necessarily inside a space. It could be generally that place. So that's why you use the preposition at. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Right. So 17, don't keep this medicine dash the sun. Don't
In.
keep it
In the sun.
in the sun. In the sun. Now, why is this in the sun? Are we keeping it in the sun?
It can't
No,
add
no.
or on.
Right. So see, again, sun rises. It's for everyone, right? Whenever it is out there. So we consider that as an enclosed space, a space where everyone inhabits, right? So it has a spatial effect to it, whether it is sun or moon or, stars or whatever it is. It feels like you're in that enclosed space, which is why the use of the preposition in, right? Enclosed spaces always would take up the preposition in. Now, I do not like this picture dash the wall.
On the wall.
On the wall.
On the wall. On the wall. Because surface. So on the wall. Now, I met Stephen dash the station.
At the station.
At the station.
So here you can say I met Stephen at the station or in the station. Again, the same question. Will you say I met Stephen in the station or at the station?
At the station, not in the
At the
station.
station.
At the station is correct. Can we not say in the station?
Yes, we can't say.
We can't say why?
We are talking about specific. Station is specific, that's why.
No. Specific. See, every time it's not because it is specific. I met Stephen at the station. That is correct. No question about that. Can I say I met Stephen in the station?
No, because it is not encloses something, the place where we are going to meet.
Like when we
Station.
meet somebody, then that we cannot say like inside something.
We are not going inside the station. We are at the station, like we are at the some place, not in.
Yeah, suppose
So-
we also meet outside the
Okay.
station, then also we can say.
Right. So you're correct. See, the natural standards in English would be to say I met Stephen at the station. But you're not wrong if you see, like we discussed before, if you want to emphasize that you were inside the building, right? Rather than just a general location. If you're giving a general location, that is fine. At is the right answer. And it's also the natural order in English to say I met Stephen at the station, right? But in the station is not wrong. Okay, it will just mean that you saw the person inside the, see, station has a building, right? Station, you consider that as a building. It's not like a random thing on the road, right? So that it has an enclosed space. That space is for the station. It is allotted for the station. So that is also a space. Okay, the space occupied by the station, or railway station or bus station or whatever it is, that's also a space. So if I say I met so and so in the station, that is not wrong. It probably means that, okay, we both of us were inside the space enclosed by the station when we met each other. Okay. If I say it would mean that somewhere near the station or somewhere at the premise of the station, right? So in the station is also not wrong. That should also be a right construction in English. Okay. Then comes, let's have a right dash. So this is easy. Dash horseback.
On
horseback. Okay, of course. Look, there is an aeroplane dash the sky.
In the
In
sky.
In the sky.
In-
The sky is what here? Sky is again a space, right?
space.
Sky
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
spatial terrain which is occupied, and aeroplane is basically something that is in, because aeroplane sails, right? So you say the aircraft is sailing in the sky. Sky again is space. Okay. 22nd, Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world.
Please complete.
So this is already given, but I want you to comment on that. What is
Like
the
even
interpretation
though
for this?
this
So,
on the
because-
surface, but
okay. So because this is not
It is like
something that is
general.
in tally with the other sentences, right? So both of this, shall we meet at the concert is fine. But Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world. Yeah, you can go on. Sorry, I interrupted.
It could be because in the world is a very common phrase, which is like
You-
used to denote
Yeah.
even not like the earth, but
Mm.
something which is like the best in the world or unique, like it being there, not denoting the position or the location, like, but the fact that it is the highest within what we can call the earth.
Okay. Any other explanations? Think about it.
Like, ma'am, we are talking like in the world, inside the whole world, that Mount Everest is the highest mountain, not
Okay.
on the
Mm.
or something like that.
Mm. Okay. So here in is more referring to, here in is about the boundaries. Like somebody was talking about boundaries in the beginning. So we basically saying that within, within the limits of the world, right? When you say in the world, you're saying within the limits of the world or within the boundary of the world, right? So in the world, Mount Everest is the highest mountain. Here in is used with reference to boundaries or limits, right? That is why in. We cannot do the same for on and at, because on and at again are a little more specific in nature. Here, whenever you're setting off boundaries, whenever you're setting off limits, then you use in, right? We do not understand this interpretation as limits and boundaries, especially for this sentence. The sentence was put in for a reason there. There are, cases where you can clearly understand, okay, we are talking about boundaries. But like somebody mentioned that this is a set expression, that this is used so often that we have just accepted it as it is. We have not given a thought about why would we say in the world, right? We hear it so often that, we're like, that is how it is said. That's all. That is my explanation. But if you read into the sentence grammatically, the reason for using in there is basically when you say world, right? Again, you're talking about boundaries. You're talking about a limit that is set off, right? Which is why in the world. Okay, so within the boundaries of the world, right? Within the limits of the world. That is why in. Okay, so again, keep this in mind. In is also used when you have to set off limits or set off boundaries for location, right? So Mount Everest is the highest in the world. Okay, within the limits of the world, within the boundaries of the world is the highest. Okay. Understood? Any question on that? Why in?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Sure. Then 23rd, shall we meet at the concert? Now, concert is again a space, right? Concert is again, a place or a space, right? So you can also say, shall we meet? Can we say, shall we meet in the concert? This is similar to your question number 16. Do you still work at the post office? Shall we meet at the concert? You usually don't say, shall we meet in the concert, right? This is more about a question whereabout of the location where you should meet, right? It's not about space. It's about the location, okay? And location premise, not the enclosed space. So again, at, not in. You don't ask, shall we meet in the concert? You say, shall we meet at the concert, okay? 24th one would be the bird sitting in the
Ma'am,
trees.
I have a question. Sorry, ma'am, I have a question.
Sorry?
I have a question, ma'am, that why we don't use on the concert?
On the concert is a very wrong expression. Why would you say on? Because on is usually reserved for surfaces, right? Why would you say on the concert here?
Because like the concert is happening on the like some places, so we can say that we are going on the concert, like at the
No.
concert.
That's wrong. We don't say we are going to attend on concert or we will meet on the concert. On is specifically for surfaces, right? Unless you have a surface relationship to be expressed there, you don't use. In concert, you don't have a scope of using on. Okay. Concert is basically used as a place or location. So for that, you can't use on. Okay. Because we are not talking about a surface level relationship there. Okay. And surface level relationship here means that the relationship is not of the surface is not where things rest in this case, right?
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
ma'am.
okay. Right. 24th, the bird sitting in that tree is one of the rarest dash this region. This region.
In this region.
In this
Hmm.
region
In
again, right?
Yes.
Why? Because you have boundaries and
Boundary.
limits.
Boundary.
Boundaries and limits. So in this region. The burdens are dash the country today.
In the country today.
In the country, right? In the country again, space, right? In the
Yes.
country today. Yeah. The house dash the corner is mine. The house dash okay, good. The house dash the corner is mine. In the corner, on the corner, at the corner. I've seen all kind of answers. Do we say at the corner? Is that an expression that you see anywhere?
No, ma'am. On the corner, probably.
On the corner. Okay. So, okay, tell me one thing. If I have a, thing like, I'll wait for you, uh, dash the corner of the street. If I say, I'll wait for you at the corner of the street, is that a wrong expression?
No, ma'am.
No.
Why?
Like it specifies the place.
Right. It is
Hmm.
specified the encloses. It is also encloses, ma'am.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So see, this is a corner is a very special kind of a noun. You can use all the three for that. You can say in, on,
Right.
at, all the three for corners. So I can say I'll wait for you at the corner of the street, or I can say there was a small shop at the corner of the block. I can say the cafe is on the corner of Main Street at Fifth Avenue, right? Or there's a street light on the corner of the intersection. I can also say she sat in the corner of the room. I can also say there's a lamp in the corner of the office, right? So all the three can be used for corners. Now, what is the difference? Same thing. If you use in, then you're basically referring to the inside of an enclosed space, right?
Right.
Say if I'm talking about corner in that sense, I'm talking about that space where the two walls meet, right? That
Right.
particular space. I'm talking about when I say something is in the corner, I'm talking about the space where these two walls meet, right?
Right.
On the corner, what does on the corner mean? Something is positioned directly on the corner. If you're talking
Yes,
about
ma'am.
something that is positioned on the corner of something, you can say on, right? Because say if you have a sentence like the cafe is on the corner, I'm still talking about something that is on the particular location, which is the corner. It is put that shop is on the corner. You might have seen, right, some of these European streets, if you watch movies. Have you
Yes.
seen how, their shops are sometimes at the corner, right on the corner of two streets, two streets meet and on the corner you have a shop,
Yes.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Our place also have, of course, we don't have to go for Europe. India has all exhibitions for all of these things. So sometimes you see a shop like that. We also have. So there is two roads diverting, and on the corner of that you will have one shop, right? So this is possible. That location is possible. Again, when I say at, the same thing, right? General location. When I say at the corner, I can also say it as a general location. Somebody asks me, "Do you know where this place is?" I can say, "Ha, at the corner of the street," right? So maybe not exactly on the corner, but yeah, it is close to the corner. That I mean. That is what I mean when I say at the corner. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So all the three prepositions in, on, and at can be used with corner, right? Corner is a special kind of noun, right? Can take all the three. So the house is at the house. In this case, what is it? The house in the corner is mine, or the house on the corner is mine, or the house at the corner is mine.
At
All the three, again, same thing.
At
You can say all the three. Anything is
Oh,
fine. The house at the corner is mine. The house on the corner is mine. In the corner is mine. All the three again. Same thing can happen here as well. Okay. No problem using any three in this case also. Got it?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then 27th one would be the picture dash the top of page 33 shows a leaf of tobacco.
On.
On the top of page.
The picture on the top of page 33 shows a leaf of tobacco. That's correct. Absolutely. Again, my
we
question
can
would be, can we use the other, can we say in the top?
No, ma'am.
No. Can we say at the top?
at. Yes, I think at also.
That the
At the top of the page. Question is, can you say at the top of the page? We can say at the top, definitely. But
yes,
can we
ma'am.
say at the top of the page? So then if we can say, then what would it mean?
Like on the page is specified that the
Correct.
space.
Specific point, right? A specific point,
Right.
the top of the page, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
at the top, at the bottom, or in the bottom, on the bottom, all of them. Again, this is one expression where all the three on the top. You said on the top is not possible, right?
Right.
Sorry, in the top. I'm sorry.
In the top.
Is in the top possible?
No, ma'am.
No,
It
ma'am.
is something like closes.
Something like, sorry, I did not hear you.
Encloses, ma'am.
This is an incorrect usage. Okay, so at the top and on the top would be the right one to use. At the top, usually when you're referring to a specific position or highest point, right? Like her name was at the top of the list. Okay. And on the top, when you have to, when something is physically resting on the highest surface, which is your surface interpretation. If it is on the surface, you can definitely say on, right? At the top, when you have to point to a specific position or highest point, but not in the top. In the top is wrong. We don't use that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, 28th one. The yachts are sailing dash the British waters now.
On.
In.
On or in?
In.
So if I say the British waters, what is your interpretation?
It's kind of a river or something like.
That is fine. But what is your larger interpretation? The British waters.
Water bodies belonging to Britain.
Yeah.
Space.
So again, boundaries, right? Limit. You're marking it off with the limit. You're saying sailing in the British waters. The moment you specify, you're also giving limitations, right? In the British waters. So whenever there is a limit set off, like we discussed before, you need to use the expression in the British waters. The yachts are sailing in the British waters, not on British water. Okay. On the water, when can you use on the water? When you're referring to something floating. So if I remove British and I say yachts are sailing dash the waters now, then what
Yes.
is your answer?
On.
On the waters.
Then on, because see, things can only sail on the surface of water, no? If you're talking
Yes.
about submarine, then it's a different case. Yachts can only sail on the water.
Yes.
So
ma'am.
then in that case, it would be on. And in this case, since we're talking about boundaries and limits, then it would be in the British waters. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. 29th, there are two boats. Okay, this one you answered. There are two boats
On the
dash the river. On or
On the
in?
river. On the river.
On the river, not in the river.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because no, it is not inside the river, or it is like on the surface. So we use on the river.
Okay.
River can be a boundary also.
Well, river, not a boundary. Okay, boundary in the sense river can be a space also.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
like we said, the aeroplane was in the sky, right?
Yes,
I can say the boat was in the river, right?
yes, ma'am.
Which means it doesn't mean inside the river. It can mean that even if I say inside the river, I'm not. All I mean to say is that it is within the space of the river, right? So I say in the river. It means that something is inside the river, not a problem.
Right.
Okay. But again, more specific expression would be on, right? The boat is not in the river. You'll have to say the boat is on the river, right? In the river is an expression that is more specifically used when you have to talk about something that is submerged in water, right? So say the fish live in the river, or I was swimming in the river,
In the river.
right? But boats, again, they sail. Unlike the aeroplane expression that we used, aeroplane we could say in the sky, because you don't have anything called a submerged experience in sky, right? But the rivers or waters are not like that. So answer to this would be on the river, right? There are two boats on the river. Okay, whoever answered it the first time was right, on the river. But if the question is he was swimming or I was swimming dash the river, then the answer has to be in the river. Okay, in the river. Or the fish lives not on the river, you in the river.
In
Okay,
the-
right.
Yes.
There's a beautiful house dash the river. What is the answer? There's a beautiful house dash the river. On the river, right?
On
You
the
can't
river.
have it in the river, right? You cannot have a house in the river. Of course, you can
Yes.
only have it on the river, right? Okay. And here on means next to. Either it means there is one next to the river, or there's something which is a house which is overlooking the river. Okay. Not on the river doesn't mean that it's on the surface of the river. Okay? So there are different interpretations possible. Look for that. There are two sentences dash the blackboard. There are two sentences dash the blackboard.
On the blackboard.
On the blackboard.
On the blackboard. Okay, on the blackboard. Again, because surface, right? Can we say in the blackboard? No. Okay, that's wrong. Because
No, ma'am.
I'm asking you this question because I've seen a lot of construction like that, right? Many people tend to use it that way. There's something written in the blackboard. Okay. Very common Indian English expression, but wrong, right? On the blackboard. There are two sentences on the blackboard. Okay. There is a moth dash the ceiling. There is a moth dash the ceiling.
On the ceiling.
Okay. In the ceiling or on the ceiling? What is ceiling? Now you need to understand these things carefully. There is a moth dash the ceiling.
On the ceiling it is, right?
On the ceiling. Definitely, because it's a surface, right? You cannot have anything in the ceiling. In the ceiling is also used, but that is used like very, very rarely. Okay. If it is say inside, if it is something that is inside this, which is like a very rare case, like for example, say wires, right? Or say there is leak, like there's a leak. So you can say there's a leak in the ceiling. Okay, the leak is coming from somewhere in the ceiling. Or you can say there are wires in the ceiling, but these are very rare conditions. Usually, only things like this can come from within the ceiling, right? There's wire in the ceiling or there's a leak in the ceiling. In that case, it is fine. But in most of the other cases, ceiling is treated as a surface, so it is on. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So 32, there is a mouse dash the table.
On the table.
On the table.
Mouse on the table. Okay. Were you dash Prof Henderson's lecture yesterday? Okay, this is also a good sentence. I like this. So were you dash Prof Henderson's lecture yesterday?
At
At.
Were you at the lecture? Okay. A lot of people would say, were you in the lecture? Why is in the lecture wrong, or is it wrong?
in the lecture could mean the contents of the lecture.
Uh-huh. Were you in the lecture? No, not the content. See, even in the lecture would mean that you are, the focus is more being inside the room, right? So were you at the lecture or were you in the lecture? In the lecture would specifically mean that, the person is asking whether you are inside the room where the lecture was happening. Okay. So I was sitting, say you have a sentence like, the professor asked the question in the lecture. Right. So if the professor has to ask a question in the lecture here means that we are all in an enclosed space, right? Or if I say I was sitting in the lecture, right? It means I was inside that room where the lecture was happening. At the lecture is more of a, again, same thing, like it's a location, right? It's a location that focuses on someone being present at the location, right? It just means you are present at the location, but you are not inside the place where it was happening, right? So if I say, were you at the physics lecture today? Then it could mean that, maybe I'm not asking specifically if you were inside the lecture room. I'm also simply asking that, were you there somewhere when this was happening, right? So
Yes.
at the lecture, in the lecture, both are correct, but there's a slight difference of meaning, right? At the lecture is about more, the focus is more on attending the event and being present at the location. And in the lecture would mean that you are inside the room where the lecture is at. That's all.
Yes.
Okay. 34, what can you see? Dash the picture on page 44. What can you see? Ah,
In the picture.
okay, in the picture. Okay. Do you say on the picture?
No, ma'am.
No. No. Right. In the picture on page 44, straightforward. So what can you see in the picture on page 44? No other preposition can take that up. 35. What is he wearing? Dash his head.
On his head.
On his head. But we hear people using in his head. No, what is there in his head? Something is there in his head.
Inside.
Not in his head, and on his head. Again, a very Indian English usage, right? In
Yes.
his has to be on his head.
Yes.
36. Who is sitting dash that chair on the left? Good. I like this one also. Who is sitting dash that chair on the left?
At that chair.
At. Yeah.
At, okay, who's sitting at that chair on the left? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
On. No?
Huh?
On.
On. You say on. You can say whatever you want, but you have to tell me why. Both,
On because
you,
the
you didn't
surface
give
of
me the answer, which is you, at is wrong. Okay. So we'll begin with the elimination of at. At is not, you don't say at that chair on the left. At has got nothing to do here. But you can say both on that chair and you can say in that chair. Both are right. Okay. So if I say, who is sitting on that chair on the left? So what is the interpretation here?
on the seat, the surface
On
of the
the
seat.
seat, that
On
is
the
a
surface.
surface, right? So chair has a seat, it has a surface, and
Yes.
somebody is seated on that, right?
Yes. That is
In
okay.
that chair,
In that chair. In the chair,
With-
it also
with-
means that in the chair, because inside the chair is like.
inside or in that enclosed space of the chair,
Yes.
because again
Yes.
it can contain something, right? Chair can contain you,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Like water can be
Yes, ma'am.
contained inside a vessel. This similar way, chair can contain somebody. It's a space which you used to sit. So that space, if I say in that chair on the left, who is sitting in that chair on the left, again gives you the similar kind of interpretation of somebody having occupied that space. Okay. So on that chair and in that chair, both could be right. Right?
Yes.
Especially if you're talking about sitting, then it has to be in that chair.
In.
Okay. Who is the girl dash this picture?
In this picture.
In this picture, because the girl is inside the picture, right?
Inside.
In this
Right.
picture, not
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the picture or at the picture. Okay. Now, who is this? Whose is this sweater dash my bed?
In my bed.
Okay.
On
In
my bed.
bed. Okay.
On.
You tell me. In or on or
Yes.
both?
On.
On.
Whose is
Similar
this
to
sweater?
chair. No?
They're correct. Again, they're both correct, but they'll have different meanings. So,
Yes.
in my bed,
Inside bed. If we will use
inside bed. Okay. But in this case, can we use in my bed? Whose is this sweater in my bed?
No, ma'am.
On my bed.
No,
No.
right? You cannot. Here you have to say on my bed. But in my bed is also a correct expression in a different context. So you
Different.
can say, I was in my bed when you called. Okay. Or I
Yes.
spend the whole day in bed. This is
Yes.
because this is the interpretation here is that you are occupying that space of the
Yes.
bed, right? But here the relationship of sweater with the bed is it is something that is simply put on the surface of the bed, right? Which is why on. Okay. So whose is this sweater? On my bed. Okay. I spent all the day in my bed. Okay. That's the difference. 39. Would you do it if you were dash my place?
At.
At my place.
At my
At my
place.
place. Not in my place.
On my place.
Because what I hear very commonly is in my place. Will you go in my place?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Would you do it if you were at my place or in my place? So if you're using it as a substitution, then it has to be what? It has to be in my place. Will you fill in for me? Will you go in my place? Is basically the interpretation is you are asking someone to substitute for you, right? The sentence looks like that. Would you do it if you were in my place? Say I were you. Will you do it? That's the question. So if you're referring to substitution, then it is in my place. At is again, more like location. When you're using at, it has to be more about location. But this is about you asking someone to substitute for you. Would you do it if you were in my place? This is
Yes,
more of a
ma'am.
substitution interpretation. Here it has to be in, not at.
So
Okay.
I thought
Although
it was like, will you do it? Will you do this, whatever you did here in this other building, if you were at my house or something?
No. Oh, that is, you read it very far fetched. Would you do it if you were dash at my place? Okay. Oh, like that. Would you do it if you were at my place? Huh. If that is the interpretation, then yes. If you're referring to it as a location, then yes. Again, right? Like I told you, it's right. You can use at or in, but the meaning would be very different, right? If you're saying in my place, then you're interpreting it as a substitution. If you're saying at my place, then you're interpreting it as a location. Okay, you're also right. Okay, I hope others have got that meaning. So what he was saying is, would you do it if you were at my place? So the interpretation being, will you do this thing if you were at my location? Okay, something, we don't know what it is, but will you do it if you were at my place means that, will you do this thing if you were at my location? Okay, something like a confirmation question. And the other one is, would you do it if you were in my place is again a substitution question. So both in and at can be used in this sentence also, but very different interpretations, very different meanings. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The last one here, you should not play football dash the street.
On the street.
On the street.
On the street or in the street? See, in English, by convention, usually it is in the street, not on the street. Okay. It is on the road and in the street. Street is treated as more like an enclosed space in the English language, right? But on the street is something, it is not wrong, but we use kind of expressions more. This kind of expression is found more in American English, but it's okay. That's also valid English. So I live on Main Street, fine. But I think for our purposes, it's better you go by the usual expressions that you have in larger books, right? In larger literature. So in the street, you should not play football in the street. Okay. There was an accident in the street. That sounds more natural than saying on, right? Children were playing in the street. Children were playing on the street. There was an accident in the street. But you could also say something like, see, there were vendors on the street selling food. I live on Main Street, or I live in Main Street. I would say in and on both should be fine for this one. Okay. Since there are expressions that are accepted with on also in English, it's fine. So either you say you should not play football on the street, or you say you should not play football in the street, both should be fine. Okay. All right. So that brings us to the end of discussion on prepositions. I have tried to include as many varieties in the sentence as possible, which I thought might be not difficult, but places where there could be confusions. You can continue practicing the same. These things are readily available online, right? So a lot of worksheets are possible. If you think you're still confused, you can continue working on that. Okay. But from my end, I think this should be fine because we cannot keep discussing these things we have time limitations, right? So you can practice on your own, but as a starting point, this should be fine. Okay. Right. All right. So I think that's all for today. We can wrap up today's session. We'll meet next week again. We'll do articles for next week. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so
Okay,
much
ma'am.
for joining in.
Thank
See
you,
you
ma'am.
again.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.